overview of the history and the process that we're going through with OSHPD. As a lot of you probably know, as a result of and coming out of the district's bankruptcy in 1999, the district signed 4 documents that are relevant to what I'm talking about tonight. First was a lease with the county that leased this building to them on a 20-year lease for an annual rent of $100,000 a year. The district also entered into 3 agreements with OSHPD, a settlement agreement, a document just entitled agreement that sort of clarified and further fleshed out the settlement agreement, and an absolute assignment of rents. And the upshot of those documents were that OSHPD had been was a secured creditor in the bankruptcy, and this was a way of settling their secured claim. And what the district did is it assigned all of the rents under the county lease for the full 20-year term to be paid directly from the county to OSHPD. So every, August 15th, the county, instead of paying the district the rent, pays it directly to OSHPD. In addition, and that lease runs through July 31st of 2018. In addition, for the years between August 1st of 2018 and July 31st of 2020, so for 2 years, there was also under those agreements an obligation that the district guarantee to OSHPD minimum rent payments of $500,000 each year, or $1 million in total. Regardless of whether the county had a right under the lease to extend it if they wanted to, and there was a process there for figuring out what the new rent would be. But regardless of whether the county extended the lease, whether the county didn't extend its lease and the district leased the facility to somebody else, or whether there was no tenant at all, the district was on the hook for $1 million to OSHPD over those 2 years. In addition, under those agreements, any rent that was paid to the district for the 6 years following, beginning on August 1st of 2020 through July 31st of 2026, any rent that the district collected would also be payable to OSHPD. And this was all, again, in settlement of OSHPD's secured. OSHPD had 2 claims to the bankruptcy. One that was secured, in other words, it was secured by real property, and one that was and they also have a claim that's unsecured. In conjunction with those, and to further secure the district's obligations under the 3 agreements it signed with OSHPD, they also granted OSHPD security interests in this building and in all other real property that was owned by the district at that point. So there were 2 deeds of trust filed against the district's real properties. And those still are on file today, still secure the obligations. Recently the board took a look at these obligations and thought that there may be an opportunity here to look at a possible settlement with OSHPD of its obligations under these 3 agreements that would be beneficial to both sides, but obviously most important to this board, to the district. And toward that end, they asked me to look at the agreements, and I told them a little bit in a little more detail what I've just told you. And they also hired Gary Hicks, who is a well-respected financial consultant to public health care districts, has a relationship with OSHPD. And Gary was assigned to do a couple of things. First of all, to take a look at my analysis of the documents and what the obligations were, and to sort of flesh that out with some numbers and look at some various scenarios and see how the numbers crunch, so to speak, about whether there was some sort of an arrangement that would be beneficial to the district, paying OSHPD off, as it were, for these obligations under these agreements, and how that would play out under different scenarios. And Gary did that initially based on certain assumptions, and I've got a couple of slides we can go through if anybody really wants to be bored with the detail. But he did some scenarios, and after he did his initial study, and we had a couple of study sessions, the board thought it would be a good idea to find out what the current appraised value and the current rental value for the facility was, to help flesh out the scenarios and make them more real. And so that was undertaken. There was an appraisal done that both talked about what the property was worth if it was sold and what its fair market rental value was. And Gary incorporated those values into his analysis as well. Based on those analyses, it looked like there was an opportunity for the district to enter into some agreement with OSHPD where There was a lump sum payment made to them, made to Oshpod in satisfaction of all the obligations under the agreements. And again, depending on how the various scenarios played out, that settlement could be very beneficial to the district. So Gary, his second assignment was to talk to Oshpod and try to strike a deal. And after some negotiations back and forth, the deal has been tentatively struck at $1.6 million that the district would pay to Oshpod in return for complete relief from the agreements that were signed, including a reconveyances of the deeds of trust, termination of the absolute assignment of rents so that the district would start to collect rent from the county again. Relief from the guarantees that were in those 2 years, $500,000 guarantees. So basically, Oshpod would march off with its money, and the district could collect the rents and be free of those obligations. With that, again, Gary put that into his financial analysis, and based on scenarios, really it was pretty striking that, particularly in a scenario where the district, after either through a county renewal of its lease or through another lease of the facility to some other third party at anywhere near market rate, the district would be far better off terminating the agreement than it would be to have the agreement still be in place when that happened after the current term of the county lease expired. And in fact, the only scenario where it was materially worse for the district to have terminated the agreement is if, at the end of the county lease, nothing happens to the building. It's not sold, it's not re-rented, it goes into mothballs. And that is based on the board's collective judgment, pretty unlikely. So, based on those scenarios, we've informed Oshpod that we have a tentative deal and it's actually, I should say, because there was a rent payment made just a couple weeks ago, yes. Really the deal is really at $1.5 million now, because there was a $100,000 rent payment made just a couple of weeks ago. And so, again, the board instructed Gary to go back to Oshpod and say we have a deal, and in fact I've looked at the first draft of documents from Oshpod to document the deal. I know the next question on all your minds, if I can anticipate it, is how's the district going to pay for this? They do have $1.1 million in reserves that they feel they can commit to the price, and then they are seeking a loan from commercial lenders for the balance. And Bobby is having fun with Gary, talking to bankers, and again, if the deal goes, the thought is that loan, which would be either $400,000 or $500,000, could be paid off from the rental stream that the district would now collect from the county once they're out from underneath the agreements. So that's the overview of both the agreements and the history and the process. Like I say, if people are really interested in going through the scenarios in any sort of detail, I'm happy to do that. That's the subject of the 2 slides. And I'm also happy to take questions and
Good.
Yes.
Yes.
What's it going to cost
Yes.
us?
So the benefit to the community, which is something that Director Connick would like amplified,
Yes.
based on the numbers, and we'll probably, you're gonna put up the numbers?
Yeah, why don't you put up the first slide, and let me go over there and pretend I'm back teaching.